why. It'll live.
I see the stream.
Very good. Then that means we are starting the Depths of Gaming Show, episode 1. Groundbreaking stuff going on here.
Season 1, Episode 1.
Yeah, Season 1, Episode 1. The only difference is no one is ever going to pick us up for a Season 2.
We are going to pick ourselves up. We don't need anyone else.
Us. Okay. I am...
In glorious Mother Russia, we do not need any help.
Great. So I am Necroscourge, part-time game master and an all-time lunatic.
And I am his comrade, Jahith. Welcome to the Depths of Gaming.
Oh, how far we sink. Alright, we're gonna get right into it with the news. So... Alright. So, Stellaris Utopia expansion. They've announced that like a gajillion months ago, and they finally announced a April release date, which I've been waiting for a while. Because the thing with Paradox is release information really.
Well, they might do that slowly, but at least they are consecutive in it.
Oh yeah, they keep up.
And I know many people that were waiting for this expansion, salivating for it.
I'm sitting right here for sure. Because I've been really excited for this expansion because after every patch, give it about a month and you start to kind of go, yeah, there's a lot that you can still. And apparently they've been taking all that information of what they couldn't fix, bundled it into one mega update that they're working called the Utopia expansion, part of the Banks patch. And, Banks is the science. And I just pissed off YouTube by potentially being wrong. Alright, so the most obvious thing and the first thing they kind of put out was mega structures. And the deal with the mega structures, they're kind of like wonders of the galaxy. They're giant installations that do one thing extremely well.
Are home to a lot of people. I believe they can also be habited by all races, regardless of their...
Yeah, ring worlds are effectively Gaia terrain. Same thing with habitats, is they're able to... It's not like a planet. In fact, as part of the ring world, essentially creates 4 maximum size. However, in building the ring world, you
if I'm building a ring world, I have probably enough planets already to say that this is a sacrifice worth taking.
And I'm not 100% sure. Leave the ring worlds inherits resource planets that get built. I'm not entirely sure if that's how that works, because I know in the habitat, you build it around the planet and inhabit resources from it.
I see.
I think it's just the exploitable tile that's still better than nothing.
Well, yeah, definitely.
The next thing is there's an ascension perk system where you are able to aspire towards 3 different end games. There's cybernetic end game.
Mm-hmm. So basically, a ending for spiritualists, ending for biologists, and ending for individualists.
Well, no, they took out individualism. That's materialism.
Oh,
Basically,
materialism. Sorry,
spiritualism, materialism, and then there's general science.
I see.
Because because the biological one that has everything to do with. But the main thing about psionics is they apparently get their power from something called the Shroud. It's the warp from Warhammer.
Except the only difference between the shroud and the warp is that demons do not come back from the shroud. Right?
Don't be too sure about that, because I believe there. Yes, at the bottom of the psionic dev diary is Shroud marked planet modifier, and it simply says something very bad is going to happen here. That's because every now and then you're able to spend resources to Shroud. It offers you a deal.
Oh, that's how it works. Shroud has a personality. Okay.
Sort of. Essentially, you spend the resources and you get a random event from the Shroud. And then you can. And it's basically deal or no deal. You take the deal, something might happen, something. Depends. Like in.
Something bad happens. Slaneshmas is on its way.
I believe there during the live, either during the live stream or something. He got like a really good technology.
Oh, I see.
That's what I. That's kind of what I meant by technologies being locked behind the ascensions. A lot of the psionic technologies, I expect a lot of the robot technologies locked behind their specific end games. You can have to be a spiritualist in order to get these basic psionic traits. However,
that makes sense.
There's now a system in place. So it's so you can just switch to spiritualist, get the psionic, you can theoretically switch away.
So it's basically the entire update is like an overhaul of the entire game. They are changing all the little bits and all the major bits, and they are putting new bits in.
Right. And then there's big change to government and they removed rebel factions. Now and so now having unhappy unrest. The normal way you're going to. So now there's basically a feature in place that reminds you that it's a good idea to build armies.
Well, they didn't need to provide new features to remind me about making new armies. There's already a system in which ranks every player or every empire along the
Well, that's fleet strength,
power
not
axis.
for terrestrial armies. I mean the like armies you land
Oh,
on
the
planets.
terrestrial armies.
That's
Yeah,
what I meant.
yeah. There wasn't really a point for making armies
No,
if you had a lot of fleet power.
all you had to do was blow up the enemy spaceships, barricade their planets, and you could just move your armies around. Now you actually have to focus on that more.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about, because in my playthroughs with the Stellaris game, I often found that there are scientific technologies that allow you to increase the army cap, but I haven't found
There is
anyone.
no army cap.
Well, exactly, but there are technologies that allow you to raise it, and that was what was confusing to me.
No, it's for the. You're thinking of the technologies that improve fleet capacity.
No, there are also ones that are specifically for armies.
Well, yeah, there's a building that allows you to train them quicker, but
No. I mean a technology that improves capacity for the army cap.
I'm gonna look that up later, Jahith.
I
Don't think that's true. I have never run into any such thing. Look it up on the Stellaris Wikipedia. I think you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. I'm probably wrong. It's been a while since I last played. I might be confusing stuff. And probably I am.
On. So they reformed factions. So now they're more like political parties, like Human Dominance Movement, Infernal Strength Alliance, and these are tied to a specific ethos. Instead of having every ethos, government population units will adhere to one ethos. So what this essentially represents is extremists, like there's a community militarists over here. There's a community. So they will, if not enslaved, probably faction after a while, and hands that are basically issues they care about. So
I see.
The example they have in the dev, they're a militaristic sort of thing, and they want a human grand marshal. They want no free asserting dominance, that kind of thing. They want to fuck up aliens. And
makes sense.
When you agree with them on their issues, happier and gives you more influence, because now you have a lot of your influence from your faction.
So make factions happier, get influence, make them angry, lose influence. Makes sense.
This is great for Stellaris because when you get to a certain size, you are completely bottled for influence.
Ooh.
So you have to kind of build in a certain way in order to make sure you still have the influence you need. Like, that's why I almost build frontier stations, because I want my freaking influence points.
Yeah, I feel the biggest problem I had with my game, from what I can remember, is that when I increased the size of my empire, I always had those little fractions popping up, and I spent most of my influence, like 90% of it, on suppressing them. And I was like a research democracy, and because of that, I couldn't just kill them. And my friend who was playing with me was like a militaristic dictatorship, and he was genociding them left and right, and actually had a better influence input generation than I did.
Oh, that's
Even though he
because
was a militaristic one.
And the reason for that is, if you go the slaver route, all of your slaves get put into factions instead of splitting off into a faction for each planet.
Mm-hmm.
So you can effectively be more influential even though you're a person.
Yeah, and in this update, from what I heard from my friend, the same I was playing with, is that now you can actually put your slaves into farms and turn them into minced meat and then eat them.
No, that's not the next diary, but I can. That yes, that is awesome, and that is because food is being changed into a.
Yeah, and that's evil as fuck.
Makes every Stellaris player go. Anyone will tell you the requirement of food messes up planetary planning because every
You
planet, no
always
matter
have
what,
to have farms on every single planet.
every planet and frontier hospital technology, you are extremely limited in what your planet.
Yeah, especially the biggest problem with that is that not only you are forced to make every planet more mundane, now with that update you'll be able to focus planets on what they do best, which is, for example, production of energy, production of minerals, production of influence, or production of technologies. However, uh, in my experience with the game, you even if you balanced your planets well, you always had a little bit of either too much food or too
Yeah,
little,
yeah, you
and
either
that
produce
was
too much
driving
or
me
too little.
insane. Yeah,
And it gets even more annoying because there are traits and perks and stuff like that that'll happen during the game that'll temporarily boost up food output. And so you'll make the mistake of thinking that's the norm, you'll count for it, and then when it ends, you're suddenly going, "Where's food?" No
there are also
longer.
resources. There are also resources that actually improve the food production,
Correct.
and as long as they're there, fine, you have more food. But suddenly someone takes away your planet or a resource or a sector, and suddenly everyone is starving.
And so the change to food means that for one, you're going to be able to specialize your plants a lot. As we're leading into, they're changing how perjury and slavery works. Now you're able to set individual alien rights, and you can set them to be livestock. You can set them to you things. And using aliens as livestock means they can't do any other job. However, put them on a farm, they produce food. With that fact, because you can play xenophobic aliens take over the planets of tournament of food planets.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome our new product, the Xeno Hamburger.
Why is my burger staring at me?
Because it loves you.
And the flip side of that is you're also able to set consumer goods level in order to soak up some of the extra. Now all of your population out of minerals. And if you set them to the higher levels, they use consumer goods, however, happier.
That makes sense. Everyone needs their iPhone.
Mm-hmm. And that's basically what that represents, is keeping them up to date in the And there's the government rework, which the main part about the government rework is they completely threw out the government system as it exists. Because how it works now is you get 3 points of ethos, you pick your ethics, and then that unlocks specific kinds of governments that would show. Threw that all out. Now you pick your ethics, and instead of individualism and collectivism, it's authoritarianism and egalitarianism. And
Makes sense.
yeah. And the main reason for that is their official subreddit was just filled to the brim with people going, oh, well, does that mean America? Or does that mean my country? What's going on? By throwing out collectivist, individualist, they finally just kind of. Next is authority. Is you're actually able to set ruler settings because you unlock different kinds of governments in there. There was a dictator version, regular version. There was.
I see.
Now you just pick whether or not you're a dictator
Or a democratically elected leader.
Yeah.
I think that's the only 2 options.
No, there's 4.
Oh, 4.
Yeah, there's 4. They're not. I can't. Yeah, there's like democratic dictator. I think the other one is. Oh, that. Yeah, it's there's dictator. There's every 5 year. No, it's there's the oligarchic, which is like a 40-year term, and then there's monarchic, where you have an automatic heir.
Yeah, the democratic, oligarchic, dictatorial, and imperial.
Mm-hmm. It's probably, if I scroll up, it's probably right there, but I'm.
Yeah, it's on the very top of the post.
But here's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because you don't pick your government for the bonuses, basically pick and combine what bonuses you get through the civic system.
I see.
Like for instance, there's a civics choice that increases your unity. There's a civics choice that allows. Now that's all the civics choices now.
Mm-hmm.
You get 2 civics points to start with, and instead of advanced government, you unlock with the.
This is very useful. This reminds me of another feature that they have in the base game is the genetics points that with research you were able to research out. I believe by the end game you had additional 2 that you could use to change your.
That's part of the biology essential, and you're supposed to get even more points.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
like
nice.
that's the whole end game of that. End game is you basically go nuts with genetic evolution. But anyways, part of the expansion by the $20 Utopia expansion proper is you get advanced civics, a handful of choices that only will get, but get. And the one.
So, in other
Mhm.
words, screw you, nature. In Mother Russia, we control you.
Yes. And the three advanced civics they have. I'm not sure if these are the only three or if there be more. I'm hoping there's like two more, but they're major. The first one is syncretic evolution, and you start with a second species on your planet,
Ooh,
and you're not able to buy away that civic. That's basically one of those civics that once you pick.
I see.
And this second race always has the prolase and strong traits. No idea what prolase does, but I'll look it up later. Mechanist is you start with robotics,
Mm-hmm.
which is for the players that were continually bitching that it's way too hard to play a robotics focused faction. Finally making that easier. And then is the Fanatic Purifier Civic, which requires you to be a Fanatic Xenophobe and a militarist. Gives you large boosts to your military. You don't get diplomacy. And you automatically
Oh,
purge all aliens. Right, in your empire.
I know about at least one person that this particular trait is going to make happy.
And this is kind of awesome because there's an achievement that's almost impossible to get where you have to purge every other race in the galaxy. Now if you can just play Fanatic Purifiers, stomp a small map and get that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the major part that is playing Fanatic Purifiers, you're basically going, I'm playing military.
There are, of course, drawbacks to that kind of playstyle, but
Okay, it says you don't get diplomacy, you always
mhm.
purge and have no effect on tradition color. You gain unity from purging. You, there's they're apparently introducing a new level of bombardment called Armageddon.
That's fun.
Uh, and your army damage and fire rate is increased by a third, which is insane.
Ooh. That's going to make planetary invasions much easier.
Well, I can imagine that you can start off as a Fanatic Purifier, start exploring, look for minor species, immediately take them over, purge them, put your own guys there, and ad nauseum. Oh boy.
Definitely sounds like a lot of fun.
And quickly, there's the Hive Mind government, which
Mhm.
is also a mutually exclusive thing. Is in the center of the ethics wheel now. There's the Hive Mind thing, and on the authority chart, there's the Hive Mind thing. Both of those, I think you get to. I think there's like a specific list of Hive Mind. So it's not really that standardized, and I like. And the big thing about being a hive mind is you no longer have to worry about happiness or factions.
Because everyone is of the same mind.
Mm-hmm. And instead of generals, you have like enlightened drones that you send out. Ruler's immortal.
Well, of course, because hive mind cannot die as long as its species lives.
Mm-hmm. However, the trade-off is while you can still participate in diplomacy, non-hive-minded pops just simply cannot survive, and like is there is you can't have non-hive mind in a hive mind.
Makes sense.
They can't really emigrate anyway, but it's a rule. They can't survive. That way, you just if you take over their planets, then they'll die off eventually.
That would be difficult if particular hive mind did have a feature of slow reproduction. I believe there's something like that. That would make playing hive mind very difficult.
Yeah,
challenging.
Playing as a hive mind is kind of the advanced way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that brings us finally to the newest dev diary that came out last Thursday. They're talking about Ascension again. This time it's about the paths. So, turn into a cyborg. That's a thing.
Finally.
Well, the two biggest requests they were getting is there a way we can ignore factions and happiness, and is there a way we can be robots? They finally went, sure, to both.
Good.
So if you have the right technologies, you're able to take the flesh is weak as an ascension perk. And
so basically adopt the mentality of Mechanicus from Warhammer 40k. Flesh is weak, time to replace it with machine spirit.
More or less, because then in the process you'll get the cyborg trait for your leaders, and that improves their lifespan. And the next step is once you get synthetics, you're able to upgrade your cyborg to fully mechanical forms.
Nice.
Which means you indeed become a primarily robotic species, which again everyone was asking for.
I actually wonder how is this going to play along with the rebellious AI event. Will it happen? Will it not?
Well, here's the thing: is the rebellious AI thing happens when you have unhappy pops that are synthetic.
I thought that it's about if you discover particular researchers and you have
that's what I mean.
Particular amount of your mechanical pops. If you have particular amount of pops that are mechanical, then the event is triggered.
Well, yes and no. You have to have the empires in the galaxy need the synthetics technology, and they have to build synthetics, and then there have to be enough unhappy synthetics. Because if you give them full citizenship, they're typically happy enough where it doesn't wrong. Because
I see. Okay.
What'll happen is you'll unlock synthetics, and then after about a year, you'll get a message saying that some of your synthetics were building spaceships. And if you ignore that,
some of them are missing, some of them are going rogue, some of them are building spaceships.
And so you keep getting those events until eventually the rogue AI empire forms. However, you can immediately nip that in the bud by just giving them citizenship once you unlock it. And
or send your entire fleet there and pacify them.
And just like regular synthetics, they don't eat food. Instead, they use energy as their.
Yep.
And you get to rename your species while you. That's kind of a major thing. And then they talk about.
Well, once your entire species is redefines itself, you might as well change its name.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that brings us finally to the biological ascension path, and you get even more trade points trait points for that, and you get the ability to research gene seed purification. Otherwise, not. Oh, apparently, if you don't have the expansion, you can research it normally. But yeah, it's the same old song where they essentially took a specific line of technologies and made and so here's the thing with Stellaris. The biggest argument for the longest time was that there is no middle game. So they finally kind of padded out. They're padding out everything they can in order to do this.
They're giving players options and expanding the amount of content that they can explore. So I see nothing wrong with that.
And so the main thing about the biological thing is you unlock new genetic traits that are essentially upgrades of traits that they already can. Since you can upgrade rapid breeders to fertile, you can upgrade intelligence. It's cheaper for them, and yeah, that is the Stellaris news. I don't think there's anything else to talk about there.
Aside from the fact that Stellaris is awesome, nope.
Yeah, it's a great game. I really enjoy it. I mean, I know the people on Geekscape know it. It's the only game I fucking talk about most of the time. So there's about a week ago there was it caught my eye that a player got banned in League of Legends because of unconventional strategy. There's this guy named Take the Draw in League of Legends, and they banned him for 2 weeks. And in this ban, they said he was not communicating and he was stealing other players' roles. From what I understand, Nunu is a jungler. He's an attacker. I don't know what the fuck he is. He's been in the game the whole time. It's just I don't really understand what he's for.
I believe that he is support / counter jungle.
Yeah, and so Take the Draw was playing this guy as a support counter jungler. And the current meta of League of Legends is if you're a support, you babysit your carry. If you're a carry, you do your carry thing. If you're a jungler, you do your jungler thing. There's absolutely no acceptance of innovative strategies. There just isn't. Because otherwise you're going to get reported. Someone's going to see what you're doing isn't counter the meta, and they're going to say you're not communicating. They're going to say you're stealing someone else's role. They use code words to cover up the fact that they only banned this guy because he wasn't doing what everyone else did. That's the only reason to me.
Yes, there are actually 2 ways you can look at it. One way you can look at it is players who are on the team, they want to have fun and they want to win. The best way to win is to stick with the meta and try to use it to the best of your abilities. However, if someone wants to create, for example, a new meta to find a new way to play, well, they do not like it because that's risky. That's going to make them fail more often than not. And so, yeah, what's right? Should he be banned? I don't know.
And so, well, there's one more thing for the Kotaku article I want to talk about until I move on to what the guy actually says. Is when he confronted Riot, they told him stealing other people's roles, failing to communicate. And the community has been very interested, and so he did a follow-up post. No, he didn't, but Wookie Cookie, who is apparently the player support guy, he says that is the question is, can I get banned for choosing a champion or a strategy that is outside the current meta? He says 100% no. Choosing a champion or strategy outside of the meta, not a account.
Mm-hmm.
And he cites this made-up number of tens of thousands of players make unusual picks and they never receive penalties in any form. One, I really doubt that, because I know how League of Legends players act, because there's a kindergarten down the street. So the second you do something that they're not used to you doing, someone complains. Mm-hmm. And it's right there in the numbers. Is this guy had a 50? He's only played this kind of Nunu for years, apparently, and he has a 53% rate of a win rate, which in League of Legends is fantastic.
Being at a 50% is decent. Anything above that is very good.
And so the main thing here is right. So this guy, he was getting reported in half his games.
Yes.
Some of which he was victorious in. And I'm almost entirely sure the reason for this is he was acting counter meta. Because here's what Wookiee had to say about this, is he's essentially saying that he wasn't playing nice because he was trying to do his... So here's the thing. This Nunu... he's doing a strategy, right? And during the game, people go, hey, Nunu, why aren't you doing exactly what you're supposed to as per the meta? And you're saying, well, I have my strategy. And... here Wookiee says, telling your team what you're going to do and then ignoring them isn't really working with them. It's holding them hostage. So what is the difference between this Nunu doing what he wants to do and they, as in his other players, wanting to only be a slave to the meta? Isn't that doing the same thing? Aren't they just telling him how it's supposed to be? However, because more of them think that's the way it's supposed to be, he's automatically wrong? Like, how does this work?
Well, how I look at this is everyone wants to be a hero in their own story, right? Yes. The Nunu wants to be a hero in his story. The Sona or any other carry or support or whatever want to be heroes, right? They want to get the team towards winning. The best solution for that is to stick to the meta. Meta is easy to remember, and amongst random players, it's the best way to play. However, if the Nunu wants to experiment, I guess he could always find a group of 4 other friends to play on Skype or TeamSpeak and tell them. And if they are his friends, they probably already know how he's going to play. So if he wants to experiment, play with your friends. If you want to just play, because if you just want to play, then you have to make some concessions towards the rest of the group. Everyone wants to have fun, and keeping someone hostage is not a good idea to have fun. Because
so
then everyone
basically needs of the many.
Well, not really in the needs of the many. You have to remember that
that's what it sounds like.
Yes, it is. However, you have to include into that calculation the fact that this is a game.
Mhm.
The matches last for about 45 minutes,
Mhm.
and you do not have to always play your way. And if you want to play your way, there are options for that. You do not have to force other people to uh, adjust themselves to you.
Yeah, because here's what Wookiee says. In the case we observed as an expert Nunu counter jungler throwing the meta on its head with the respective win rate of 53%. While it's pretty impressive on its own, we also found that nearly 50% of the games were reported by teammates as frustrating and unfun. Keep in mind, this isn't just losing games, victory. And then he says, right after that, the message was pretty clear. This player is serious about making Nunu great again, and they're leaving a trail of dissatisfaction, frustration, and anger in their way. That is the most amateur, disgraceful thing I have ever seen a video game admin say. That is just disgusting. Leave politics out of this shit. Okay? Because right there, it's a jab. It's just a jab. There's no respect to be had in that statement. He's just saying we're right, he's wrong. He's probably a Donald Trump supporter, so we can't take him seriously. What the fuck is that? Who says what? Christian, am I crazy? Am I taking this out of context? I feel like he's being a dick.
I'm going to say this. He might be. He might think that basically forcing yourself onto other people is not a good idea, but he probably could have worded this a little bit better.
Oh, he could have definitely worded it better.
Because in the end, the guy is your client, the Nunu player. He's your client. He's buying the skins. He is having fun, and he's propagating the idea of League of Legends, right? However, you cannot just stamp on a player. You just can't. There needs to be a level of professionalism there.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna struggle to find professionalism in League of Legends, but
I mean, amongst the staff, right? Players are a different.
Well, here's the thing,
different. Sorry,
is I'm not entirely sure how Riot hires its admins, but I'm almost entirely sure they're players. Is that they hire players that they consider to represent the community, and then they put them as a admin, because then again, this guy is talking purely statistics. He doesn't care about nuance. He doesn't care about the fact that he's wrong. He just says, hey, he has a win rate. That's cool. Who cares? But half of his games were reported, and that's bad.
well, you have to realize that League of Legends is a team player game, right? So just because you have a good win rate doesn't really mean that all of those games you won.
Win rates.
Well, yes, win rates are important, right? However, there's a team effort that goes to a win, right? It's not just you won the game. The team won the game. And if half of your
yes, but usually
matches
it's because of the carry. One player is typically the reason you win. As strange as that sounds, it's just how League of Legends is designed. It is designed so that there's 4 players, but one of them wins the game. That's how it's always looked like to me. Is when I
would argue
when I played 5 years ago, I'd be playing and I'd hit tab and there's always one guy right at the top. He has all the kills, all the gold, all the whatever. And
yes, you are correct.
To be fair, that's probably changed, and it's probably a little more metered out. But it's still
I don't think that's changed.
Seriously messes with how that game's designed. That's why I still defend Heroes of the Storm, because you can say whatever you want about, oh, it looks like other games, it's slower
Yeah.
even though it's faster, whatever, but it fixes all of these problems that I look at and still see in League of Legends and whatever.
Now,
All of its clones.
let me finish a little thought that I
Of
have.
course.
When it comes to League of Legends, yes, you are correct. There are players, champions that have most of the kills. They have most of the points, most of the shit, most of the gold, etc. However, you have to realize that carry alone is not going to win the game. Entire team has to support that carry in order to win the game. So yes, carry is important. Yes, we should work towards helping that champion do its job, but that doesn't mean that if that basically doesn't mean that it's wrong to it's something bad about the game. Every champion has its role. Every champion has a way to play, and it's important for the entire team to win. So supporting a carry is, or rather abandoning carry, like the Nunu did, is not counter meta, but also it's understandable why entire team would be angry at him. Because as a support, he has a role to play, and everything falls down on the individual player's skill. If he is skillful enough to counter jungle and support his carry, everything is fine. And if he abandons the carry and doesn't do anything correctly, then that's a problem. Then he's a drag on the team.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen his match, so I can't really say.
Well,
Yeah.
I I closed it already when I shouldn't have, but I read
Control T.
Take on Draw's basically Take on Draw put out his own forum post, and that's what Wookie responded to, of course, ignoring everything Take on. Because if you look at the statistics that he provided, his team was getting 3 to 5 times the camps that the other team was getting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in some cases, Rift Summoner, he was always getting the Rift guy, the Rift Herald.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 50-20 for the Dragon, 50-20 for someone else, 30-10 for someone else. But my point is that this is because he's counter meta, he's the black sheep. That I feel like I still feel like that's their argument is there are more players that do it this way than that way, therefore you will be punished because you are the minority. And that's why I think it's hilarious how the first thing Wookie says is you can't be banned for counting meta, even though that's exactly what they do.
Well, there's a difference between being banned for counter meta and being banned for.
Well, they gave two other reasons that were code words for counter meta.
Well, if the entire team doesn't want you to play the counter meta, is it right for you to still do it?
That I'm on the fence on that. I really am. But here's
and that's basically where the entire discussion boils down to.
Should you be a slave to meta? That is a very interesting. Because you're right. Acting meta helps. It can. But if you're just always are an obedient slave to meta, are you really doing much of anything than just being predictable?
Well, my look at this is this: if you want to go counter meta, play with your friends who know and accept the fact that you're going to do that. And
as opposed to playing.
Yeah.
So you're saying Pug must always be meta always.
At least with random players.
Yeah, that's
With random
exactly,
players,
that's
yes.
what I mean. Pickup group. Like you're saying, Pug's always meta. I don't agree with that because what if your Pug that's meta gets put up against your friend your team of friends that are counter meta? Are you suggesting that it's okay for the meta team to report the counter meta team?
No, and I don't think that they would have actually a case there because it's the opposite team. You cannot really ban them for not communicating.
I guess, but they could still put in like report tickets and shit.
Well, I guess, but then again, if you lost to a counter meta team, if you played meta,
you're able to all chat and leak still. I think so. Therefore, you can report other players for or actually being insulting, which that's a legit cause. But yeah,
my take on this is as follows: if you play your team that's playing the meta lost against a team that's playing counter meta, then that just means there's so that just means that the meta itself is changing. Because if you see, oh, they are doing this way, they won against us, maybe we should do it the same. And there's League of Legends is a very dynamic game. I remember that from my time when I was playing Zillion, I had like 50 or 60 different guides to play Zillion. And same can be probably said about every single champion that's out there. There's many different ways to play them. So even if you're playing meta, you're not really stuck to like one way of playing. There's a overall theme of your way to play.
Yeah, but people usually pick one guide and stick to it. They don't really like. I get it, but I don't know. I remember my first time I played, and I was playing Singed, and a person on my team tells me to go back to spawn and alt tab and read guides rather than play the game. And another guy was going, he wants you to hold his hand. And I was just shocked that people were being so dickish to someone trying to learn the game.
Oh yeah, random people are all dickish in League of Legends. That I don't think is.
They'll report you for not communicating because you're counter meta. So, and I play through this game. I'm doing good, and the whole team. I look up, and the whole team is running through the middle jungle, chasing after one person, but the whole team is after them. And they're running after them. They're like 5 feet behind him. They can't get him, and it's embarrassing. So I walk up, and I drop my Singed goo in front of them, slow them down. They get the kill, and then they're like, "Thank you, Singed."
Makes sense. And so yeah, this is so what you're basically saying is that this is a question about, well, if a person is a good player and other players are dicks, do they have the right to report him?
Yes.
And does the Riot game has the right to ban him? Well, that's a very difficult question because the Riot games, you have to realize that they do not have like this power of knowing everything, right? They don't know if this is the case of one player being one player against 4 players, and 1 player being in the right and 4 players being in the wrong. They already in their term of service accepted the rule of the democratic rule. If 4 people vote on you being bad player, then you are a bad player. and it's wrong because they might
really
be
democracy,
dicks.
though? That's
It's rule of the many. It's rule of the majority, at least.
yeah. See, mob rule, I don't think is the. See, that's why League to me is a dying game, because it suffers from mob rule, and it
But
feels like they
mhm.
can't get through a tournament without some kind of major controversy.
Or drama, yeah.
They can't they can't go more than a week without a severe PR issue. I mean, I maintain that
Well,
they have legitimately ridiculous strategy where they buff and they're constantly buffing and penalizing and buffing and changing, and they do this to half their list every update, and then it becomes
mhm.
a game of looking on the forums and see who's the right player, who's the right character to play that week, and it was just what.
Well, you have to realize that they're trying their best. Tell me what kind of system you would introduce that would solve the drama between random players and the
I'm not
uh, yeah. If not the democratic rule, what rule? That's my question here.
saying that isn't democracy. Saying I'm right, you're wrong, there are more of us, you're wrong, isn't democracy.
Can you repeat that last one?
I said if there's more of us and we say you're wrong, that's not democracy.
Well,
That's ganging up on someone.
well, you have to take into account what's the size of the population. If the size of the population is 5 players and 4 of them say that you're wrong, then within that
Then
population, yeah,
100%
you're
of
wrong.
time they really are wrong
Yeah,
because
it's
more
sad.
people say they're wrong.
It's sad, but true.
No, that's bullshit.
Yeah, listen, democracy does not have the actually the world itself, the
Can you
universe
stop
itself.
using the North Korean definition of democracy?
Listen, North Korean democracy is the rule of the few over many. That's not the same democracy. If you do not have a
Moving
choice,
on.
then that's not democracy.
Um,
But if there is a choice, well,
I'll be right back. I need to hit the.
okay. I have returned, comrades. I see Necro is not back yet. Such a shame. Oh, there he is.
And finally, there's
Mm-hmm.
an ethical question on Reddit. For our next segment, answers nobody wanted. So, this is a Reddit question that um, that's right. People be able to see how I'm a petty asshole Uh,
Oh, we are all assholes.
oh, anywho, so here's the question:
Mm-hmm.
a lawful good dwarven paladin wants to take the scrotum off an orc and use it as a coin purse. Say that does not work with his alignment. He argues that as a dwarf, orcs are not seen as humanoids but beasts. Advice. And this was from Lord Kabutops.
Hello, Lord Capitaps.
He's not actually here.
I know.
Neither is his Force Ghost.
I know.
Putting that out there. So I already know my stance on it. What's your take on this?
Well, there are basically two ways of approaching this. One is from the fact that we're talking about a lawful good character, and another that we're talking about a paladin character. So, what the lawful good approach? If you are a lawful good character, you would not, at least in my opinion, you would not needlessly cause harm. So you can kill a orc if the orc attacks you, but you're not going to torture it. You're good. You're not going, even if you do not consider orc a sentient creature, you will not torture it. And second aspect is the paladin aspect. Paladins are usually considered, at least in my opinion, as holy men, people that dedicate themselves to their gods.
Well, that's
And
exactly
if
what
you're,
they are.
yeah, and if they dedicate themselves to a lawful good god, then they want to be a symbol of purity. Now, a symbol of purity that carries around a sack of a coin purse made out of goblin sack does not scream purity to me.
Well, so here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is all related to 5th edition because, as we both know, in 3.5, alignment was far more important. They wrote a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the game around it. Further still, if you go back to second, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth noting that as for 5th edition, alignment's more of a guidelines. Like for an instance, if you play an adventure league, you're not allowed to pick a alignment at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because and that's all because there's this common misconception that if you're evil, you have to murder everything you see,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're evil, you have to. Basically, they always go to extremes. And so alignment isn't a major part of 5th edition. In fact, the book even says, this is Player's Handbook, page 122 that I'm reading from. I have it in my lap, so you can't see it. It says lawful good. Or no. These brief summaries of the 9 alignments describe the typical behavior of a creature with that alignment. Individuals
Mm-hmm.
may vary significantly from that typical behavior, and few people are perfectly and consistently faithful to their precepts of their alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, a lot of replies to this topic are along the lines of who cares about alignment, ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, they would have somewhat of a case because 5e doesn't really care about alignment that much.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a core part of the paladin class still in
Yes.
5th edition. And I'll get to that in a moment. But let me read what it says about lawful good, and let me read about what it says about chaotic evil. Lawful good. Creatures can be counted on to do the right things as expected by their society. Evil. Creatures act with arbitrary violence spurred by greed, hatred, or bloodlust. So, to me, this answer, I don't even have to go into how paladins work. To me, the question is answered. He is not lawful good.
Yeah.
Because
The problem
racism is arbitrary. Seeing creatures as beasts is hatred. Wanting to cut off their nutsack to use as a coin purse, that's arbitrary and it's hatred. Bloodlust. I mean, you said this was torture. Well, it's already dead. It's technically not torture.
Well, I don't know actual situation, right?
Yeah, he actually was kind of. I just assumed it was dead.
Yeah, I would think that it's for me, to my mind, it's stuck out that the player actually said that before he killed the orc. It was not specified within the Reddit thing.
Yeah, well, it's not specified in the question.
Yeah.
Might have been. I think he edited it, but I mean, yeah. To me, opening shut case. He is not acting towards his, and so then we get to the major thing is that, as far as I know, clerics don't really have to care about it too much. It's mostly paladins. Like I can quickly look at cleric to see if they have to care about it too, but I don't think they do.
I would say they do. As long as they, because I believe that any kind of spiritual character has to follow the will of their god and therefore follow the alignment of the god, even if they are not themselves like chaotic good or neutral good or whatever. They still have to act lawful good if their god is lawful good.
Well, here's the thing. I'm looking at the PHB entry, and unlike the paladin, there's nothing that specifies they have to really even get along with their god. They just have to choose one of the god's domains. But paladin has a major part of his deal because Sacred Oath. Once you reach 3rd level, you swear Earth that binds you as a paladin forever, like, and you choose an oath. You have to follow that. Next page, it says breaking your oath in an inset. Paladin tries to hold the highest standards of conduct, but even the most virtuous paladin is fallible. Sometimes the right path proves due to standing, sometimes the situation evils, sometimes the heat of emotion causes a paladin to transgress. If you break your vow, they typically seek solution from a cleric who shares the faith. In order, they might as prayer. That sort of thing. They basically seek atonement.
Yes.
It also says if a paladin willfully violates his or her oath and shows no sign of repentance, consequences can be more. At the DM's discretion, an penitent paladin might be forced to abandon this class.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I haven't bothered looking that up yet because what he would turn into isn't really what can be done. So I mean, I brought this up in my post on this. That is, told him, read the guy page 122 of the PHB, which I did, alignments. And then he replied to me saying he's also playing a cop-like character, which is fairly stereotypical for level. The minimum repercussion he could think of was a alignment change, if a sturdy alignment. And then I pointed out what I just read, breaking the oath. And I mean, it says right there in the inset, if you keep messing with God, he can smite your ass.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting, because you might, as a DM, allow your player to do that, but then say, your god is not going to be happy with your actions.
Yeah, I mean, because the other people that are applying say one of two things. Like, Foxyon7 writes, alignment means nothing. At most, it can describe the actions your character is prone to take. They do not guide or force your actions. Now, this guy obviously doesn't know how paladins work.
Well, let's not jump to any conclusions.
Course 2 writes, one action shouldn't result in alignment change. He's human, not a god. Don't hold him to godly standards. Behavior continues, slowly changes alignment. Once again, it feels like I'm the only one in here. By that I mean in these replies that's bringing up the fact that it's a paladin.
Well, there's also, you know what?
Because
there's actually another way that you could look at it. You could say, okay, do it. But that might be, since it would make your god angry, it could lead you to a quest. This could be a hook for a quest. A paladin sinned against their god, and even getting rid of the orc coin purse is not going to relieve that anger, and therefore it might be a good way for a DM to send the character and the team along with him on a penance quest.
Oh, absolutely. Like, because my stance really isn't so much don't let him do it. My stance is more or less that I would say, hey, you're of this alignment, worship this god. The reason you gave me is bupkis. There will be consequences. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
He can, and I'll ask him, are you doing this? That is what I will. That would, at table, that's what I would have done, and I would have followed that up, fucking with him constantly if he keeps doing it. Because here's the thing: even though it states it as the only in the breaking your oaths, that's the extreme. The extreme is forcing him to ever, as other people bring up Reddit, what you can't, something you probably could get away with, messing with how his spells work. Messing with his class feat. Not, and by the I mean not crossing out shit on his sheet, just like every now and then. Okay, I consult with my gods. What do my gods? Silent, as if.
Makes sense.
Like, I try to cast smite. Your smite is only half as powerful as it usually is. That, like, I would mess with him because he messed with God.
I would also consider, like, allowing him to use his skill, but there would always be a accompanying hallucination to it. Like, a hallucination that is designed to remind him that Paladin sinned, and for example, he tries to call down Smite, and suddenly everyone has ballsacks in their eyes, or he feels the pain of having his ballsack removed every time he uses his spells.
Oh man, that would be more fitting if he was worshipping Garl Glittergold. But I haven't even really looked up what this guy's god is. Oh, it really is. Oh wow, this could literally be anything. As, I mean, there's Moradin, the dwarven god of creation, who is lawful good.
Yeah, Morden would actually have. I'm reading the Reddit, and actually, if he worships the god of creation, then he's actually creating something. So Morden might not actually be against that.
Yeah, but he's the god of the anvil, not the god of ball sacks.
Well, even if you're making a sword, you still need leather for the grip.
Making a coin purse.
It's still leather.
Making a coin purse out of an ore.
Listen, I'm trying to find a different way to look at this. It wouldn't be a fun show if I'm constantly agreeing with you.
What, you mean, how can people not want to hear 2 hours of Necroscourge is over. I mean, I want to hear 2 hours of that. I don't know.
Listen, we both know that you wouldn't stand 2 hours of that. 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, it would take about 5 minutes and I'd be done. Be like, alright, see you next week. Anywho. So
yeah, bottom line is hook quest, or quest hook, punish him, sin, oathbreak, and have fun.
Yeah, once again, Oathbreaker would probably be the
extreme, yeah.
Okay, you keep making shit out of people's nutsacks. I'm gonna smite your ass. And that's our show.
At least for today. Necro?
Yeah, that's our show for today. I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, it was a very nice discussion, very productive. I enjoyed myself a lot.
Because my absolute fear was not preparing enough. We made it work.
Yeah, we milked it.
Oh yeah, we milked that like an ogre.
Okay, enough innuendos for today.
Alright.
Thank you everyone for joining us for this little show of ours. See you again next week.
Next week.